Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Monsters and Legends. I'm your host, Tristan Knott, and with me are two great friends of mine. The founder of Everything Horror himself,
Paul Doski,
and his lovely fiancée,
Tessa Baker.
Now, for everyone out there, there's been stories passed on from generation to generation. Stories about creatures in the woods like werewolves and maybe sightings of Bigfoot. And also stories of giant birds in the sky. But there's stories even older than time itself, stories dating back all the way to the 12th century, like stories of pirates coming across giant octopuses at sea, or the classic story of how a group of travelers faced a killer whale. But you gotta ask yourself, are these stories really true? And that's our topic for this episode, folks. Sea creatures. Now, you guys ready?
Ready.
let's do this.
Well then, let's dive right into it. Pun intended. As you guys know, sea creatures come in many shapes and sizes, but we all have favorites, and my favorite is mermaids. Because when people hear the word mermaid, they're thinking Disney's mermaid. Hell no. Mermaids are very beautiful creatures, but they are very devilish. For example, if you see a mermaid and you walk up to it, you literally are signing your death wish. Because they seduce you to your death. They literally drag you to the bottom of the sea. And it's really, really petrifying.
Yeah, you're talking even sirens in a way, where even boats would be lowered to them by the sound or beauty, because they're like, oh, what's that? And it's like a mermaid, and then when they go, they sink the ships and everything else and pull everybody down with them, just like you said.
Yeah, they tend to lure sailors with the sound of their voice. They're singing, hence why they're called sirens. And they look beautiful on the surface, but like you were saying, Tristan, underneath they're very devilish creatures, and they will pull you to your doom.
Exactly. And it's really, if I saw one, I ain't going near it.
Well, hopefully you're not in a group of crowd that get distracted then. I mean, it would suck to be in a boat and somebody's just like, oh, what's that? And of course you would figure it out. Oh God, it's a siren. And then of course it would probably be too late because they're probably already sailing towards it and you're just like, oh God. And then that's when we throw in the question, what would Tristan do?
Tristan's just going to pretty much be like, we're all going to die. It's all over.
You jump off the boat and
see that thing right there singing? That means we're fucked.
Plug your ears. Don't listen.
So what is your guys' thoughts on the whole sirens, mermaid, sea creature thing?
What do you mean, like in films?
But in general.
I think the concept is interesting for sirens in films, and I've seen short horror films with mermaids before too, and it's sirens, and they definitely use their voice to their advantage, almost like a glamour. I'm trying to remember the name of this one that I watched, but she was held captive in a freak show, and the guy that captured her wouldn't let her go. He used her to make money for him, and one night she used her voice and cast a glamour over herself, made herself look so beautiful to him. So when he got really, really, really close to her, she essentially ate his face off while laying in a bathtub full of water.
Which had a twist at the end, too. Dun dun dun.
Yes.
I
But we
think I
won't.
know what movie you're talking about.
Yeah? Does it sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was from like Crypt TV or something.
That wouldn't surprise me.
But
I wish I
know
remembered
exactly
the name of it.
I know which one you're talking about, yeah.
But that's an example of mermaids used in a horror sense.
Which works though.
Yes, it does work.
That's what makes it creepy.
Yep. That's the creepy aspect of it. Like, there's other, like, mermaid movies out there that are all, like, happy sunshines and rainbows, but...
That Tristan was talking about with the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
This is not that. This is far from that.
Yeah, it's more of, like, a false,
I think it's a scary concept. Like, you're out in the middle of the sea, nothing around, and all of a sudden you just hear random music out of nowhere. It's chilling. It'll chill me to the bone. Just hearing it, and then just seeing it and being like, oh, it's beautiful. Oh, no, it's not. No.
Turn this boat around.
Listen to them not!
Plug your ears.
Why you have earplugs in? There's a reason.
There's a reason for these earplugs.
You see that?
Of course, the sirens are only known to use their charms to seduce men. They never go out. You never really hear them go after women. It's only men.
Whoa! Before we even get into that topic, in this day of generation, we may never know. Out in the middle of the sea. Oh, that sounds pretty. Oh, well then, she must be a lesbian.
So my monster is none other than the legendary Kraken, where we know it's the giant squid or the giant shrimp or whatever you really want to call this thing, but it's the Kraken nonetheless. And why did I choose this? Well, maybe because the Kraken has been known to be the largest monster ever imagined by mankind, especially in Nordic folklore. It was said that it would haunt the seas from Norway through Iceland and all the way to Greenland. That's quite far.
That's quite the stretch of distance.
Yes. Now, an interesting thing about the Kraken that it would have like a weird knack for harassing ships, and as many reports said, it would attack vessels with its strong arms. But if the strategy failed, the beast would start swimming in circles around the ship, which would cause and create a maelstrom to drag the vessel down.
So essentially, it's like a giant, wormhole.
Yes. It's pretty much like you're just going right into a black hole, but this is a wormhole in the ocean. So either way, you're pretty much fucked. But the cool thing about this, though, that I like about it is that it could devour a ship and its entire crew at once, because that's how big it is. And it's also... Oh, okay. I'll just do this. It's also cool to know about the folklore that it sounds like the Kraken has been around for as long as the year of 1180, which was from a king in Norway. And as with many legends, the Kraken started with something real based on sightings of a real animal, the giant squid. And as for ancient navigators, the sea was tremendous and dangerous, hiding a horde of monsters in its inconceivable depths. And any encounter with an unknown animal could gain a mythological Yeah, mythological Ed from Sailor's Stories, and then after all, the tale grows into telling. So it's really cool because it's true though with the whole storytelling though. Like back then we didn't really have cameras, so what would people just do? They would have to draw what they see in very detailed drawings though, which I will say a lot of people back then could draw like detailed drawings of what they've seen. And would it be believable? Well, I guess we really don't know because none of us were really around 2,000 years ago or so, depending on the creature, of course. But in this case, it is almost like 1,000+ years ago too. So I guess I like the Kraken because it's one of those stories that we get told where it's that legendary giant squid that could pretty much devour your ship and your crew in one swallow. And if it wasn't just that, then you would be getting dragged to the depth below by the wormhole or black hole or whatever you want to call it within the maelstrom of the ocean.
Yeah, we've seen the Kraken like what once on Pirates of the Caribbean, like on screen.
Yeah.
I think that's about it I've seen of the Kraken.
Yeah, because wasn't he controlled by Davy Jones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Davy Jones's heart was the key to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's like stories that I've heard personally is that they believe that the Kraken was a giant squid, which
Right.
I could kind of see that, but kind of not at the same time. But it's like one of those things that you said, Paul. It's like you have to be like really talented to like draw something that you see in like a snap of a finger, because they're probably drawing this as it's happening. Like, oh, that ship's gonna go down. Let me just draw this a second. Oh, well, hold right there. Well, let me get your good side first.
Let's pencil this in.
Right. Well, listen to this. So in Norway, they did like a study thing with the science, and the largest giant squid, or actually, I don't even know how you pronounce that word right there. The archum or what? I'm just gonna say giant squid. Everybody will know what I'm talking about. So in Norway, though, I don't know what year. Oh wait, 1954. In 1954, they did a recorded length of a giant squid that reached 18 meters in length. And then that was including the very long pair of tentacles, and the vast majority of specimens are much smaller, I guess. Holy crap. The squid's eyes are actually the largest in the animal kingdom and are crucial in the dark depths. And it can go up to 1,100 meters deep and could possibly reach 2,000 meters for these type of eyes. So, and in my own defense, if I was ever in the sea and came across a Kraken, I would pretty much just have to write my own funeral right there because I don't think they would ever be coming back from that. And as for movie-wise, I'm not sure if we've really seen more than what we were talking about with the Pirates of the Caribbean. So I definitely have to actually look up to see if there's even any more Kraken movies. But if there isn't, maybe that's something we should be able to see more of, because that's kind of creepy. Like, how would one actually survive an attack by a giant squid, especially if it's not attacking or devouring your boat, but creating a wormhole to swallow the whole ship into the sea? How do you survive that? Maybe you don't.
Okay, so my topic of discussion for my favorite monster, I would have to say, is the Hydra. It's also called Hydra of Lerna. And it is it's a serpentine water monster in Greek and Roman mythology. Its lair was on the Lake of Lerna, which is also reputed to be the entrance to the underworld. So the Hydra, quite simply, was considered to be a guardian of the underworld. And it also, I'm sure most people know about the famous battle between Hercules and the Hydra and how Hercules had to kill the Hydra. It was like one of Hercules' 12 labor tasks that he had to perform. It was kind of like his rite of passage. So Hydra essentially possesses many heads, one of them being immortal. And if you are to chop off one head, two are to sprout back in its place. So if you can imagine if the Hydra started out with like 3 heads and you chopped off 2 of them, you'd be getting 4 heads back in that place of those 2. So you would have a 5-headed Hydra you would be dealing with. Yeah, you don't want to mess with these. I played the God of War game, and you had to go up against a Hydra in that one, and her 2 babies, and everything else, and...
Was that the first game?
Yes, that was the first game. And let me tell you, if you don't do it just right, you're going to have a bitch of a time. They're going to smack you around. They're going to try to fucking eat you. Breathe fire down your fucking gullet. They're just nasty. You just don't want to mess with these sea dragons. There have been literature and art of these creatures throughout history. Gustave Moreau did a 19th century depiction of the Hydra influenced by the beast from the Book of Revelation. And this monster is best well known in Greece. And it, like I had mentioned earlier, it has the capacity to regenerate lost heads. And it's just not a good idea to even remotely try to decapitate this monster unless you want to deal with more than what you have to. Another example of where I've seen Hydras would have to be in, like, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Where Percy and his friends had to go and deal... It's not really a horror sense of it, but it's just another example of where you have to deal with a Hydra, and he ended up dealing with like a 6-headed Hydra, which it wasn't a fun time. So basically, essentially, how Hercules was able to defeat the Hydra was, in the alternative version of the myth, is that by cutting off one head, he dipped his sword into the neck and used its venom to burn each head so it would not grow back. So he essentially used the venom from one severed head wound to cauterize the wounds of the other heads so they could not grow back. Hera was upset at the fact that Hercules slain her beast, and she had a constellation put up in the sky of a Hydra to commemorate her lost creature. Which, that's pretty interesting. So there is an actual constellation up in the sky called the Hydra.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of, like, I did a little research on the Hydra too, like a while ago, that its breath is also lethal as well. If you even breathe that in, it could kill you too.
Yeah, it's poisonous. Yeah, it had mentioned in the myth that Hercules had to shield his face, his nose and mouth, so that he wouldn't breathe in the poisonous gas that the Hydra emitted from its mouth. in order to even remotely get close to it.
Which I would not want to go up against a Hydra anyway, but I mean, for those that probably did have to fight a Hydra, they probably didn't last long because they didn't realize they couldn't breathe it in until it was already too late.
Or they didn't survive after cutting off the heads and more would sprout back.
That too.
There's depictions of this monster dating back to 500 BCE, showing it with a double tail as well as multiple heads. And the same regenerative ability, which, like I said, that's a monster I definitely wouldn't want to fuck with unless I took Hercules' approach to it and wore, like, I don't know, like a fucking gas mask and went in with, like, a machete or some shit. Either way, you're gonna have to get up close and personal with this bitch or use the environment against it, like Kratos did in God of War, and use the ship against it to pin the heads down so you could take out the heads.
But he didn't have to cover his breath, though, so.
No.
Yeah. But then again, we're talking about the God of War here.
Yes.
He doesn't need that shit.
Yeah, we're talking about Kratos. So.
Yeah, Kratos don't take no shit.
No.
Exactly.
Nope.
Well, as for movie-wise for this, I want to say in a way we've kind of seen it, but not, because I'm pretty sure it does not grow its head back, which is the creature from Godzilla, which I always have trouble remembering his fucking name. King Ghidorah or something, I forget.
King Ghidorah.
King Ghidorah, yes.
King Ghidorah.
I don't know why I always forget it when it's like one of my...
I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, too. I think it's like King Ghidorah or something like that. A lot of people pronounce it weird.
Either way, we all know what the hell we're talking about. The three-headed dragon.
Apparently, according to IMDb, there is a movie, in fact, called Hydra.
Oh,
It's
yes.
a 2009 fantasy thriller about a former Marine and three ex-cons who are kidnapped and set as prey for wealthy hunters on an island inhabited by deadly Hydra.
Yes,
I actually have that.
There's
and
an
actually,
example.
wasn't there Hydra used in that one movie too, Clash of the Titans?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Hydras have been shown a lot in movies.
And there was also a Hydra used in Hercules, movie Hercules.
Yep.
Live action one, I forget.
I think so. Yeah.
The one with The Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the live action.
So there's multiple sightings of the Hydra used in movies, video games, etc. So in comparison between the Kraken
or
Sirens, really, you see the Hydra maybe a little bit more. Maybe it depends on what you watch.
Well, I do know the Sirens do have quite a bit of film, but we're not talking about Sirens anymore. So, I mean, I just know for a fact that there is quite a few Siren movies, though. Hydra, though, yes, there's quite a few. Krakens, I mean, I can't, besides Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm really having a hard time remembering if I've seen one with another Kraken in it. But I do know Call of Duty DLC, I forget which one it was, maybe Black Ops #2 or something. They used the Kraken as well for the final boss. That was interesting. But, yeah, that's all I remember.
Yeah, I have that Hydra movie, and it wasn't really scary. It's more like, like some of the acting in that is just awful. Because, like, one moment the girl's like, I'm dying! Then gulp.
Hey,
like,
Tristan, how did that go again?
I'm dying!
Okay. Wanted to make sure. Interesting.
Too funny.
And then what was it?
That's literally how they're acting. When they see the Hydra, they have a really, really bad scream. They're like, ah!
Oh,
that's the best you got? If I saw a Hydra, I'd be shitting myself and running out the damn door.
Well, I think it's safe to say that the Hydra is definitely one monster we all do not want to go up against.
Now, there's multiple stories of sea creatures and everything, but we could talk about those for days now. Now, one other thing that people forget is just stories in general. And they don't have to be anything to do with monsters themselves, but mostly monsters that are kind of not so easy to see. So the story that I found was kind of interesting. It kind of reminded me of that ghost movie called Ghost Ship that was made.
Oh, yes.
Good movie.
Yes, indeed.
I can't remember what year that came out. Do you guys remember? Yeah, I knew I was like really young when that came out. So
yeah,
but the story kind of reminded me of that movie, and the story is the Orang Maiden or whatever, and literally it was a military ship. It was out now. Let me rephrase that. It was a Dutch cargo ship, and it sent out a distress beacon. A ship went to go investigate, and when they went on board, all of the passengers were frozen in fright, but dead. They were all dead, but they were all frozen and looked like they were reaching out for help, and like they were just frozen solid. But the day they were going to do the investigation on the ship actually caught on fire. Just all of a sudden, just poof, caught on fire. I'm like, that's not creepy at all.
No, not at all.
That's just absolutely normal.
I don't even know what to say to that either. Like I'm thinking to myself, okay, so that would mean the ship is frozen. Then how the hell can it catch fire? So
Pretty much. That's one thing that like really intrigued me, because I found the article on mranker.com, and it says right here, it is said that terror was frozen on the faces of the corpses, which lie all throughout the ship, with many with their arms reaching out for help.
yeah, that's just crazy. And I don't know why, but this is giving me like, yeah, so that reminds me of an upcoming game from Super Massive Games who did Until Dawn, because you mentioned Ghost Ship, Tristan, and it's called The Dark Pictures Anthology, Man of Medan. It's really interesting, and it's one of those, and if people are familiar with Until Dawn, or if you're not, it's one of those type of games where you actually can choose who lives or dies, or you can kill off everybody, or you can keep everybody alive, depending on your choices. But if you watch the trailer for this upcoming game, it just gives you that ghost ship vibe, minus maybe the frozen bit. But I mean, who knows? Maybe that folklore could actually come into play with the game, and we just don't know. It's hard to tell, but it's just giving me that type of vibe. However, though, this sounds like a really cool way to do a movie. I don't know why, but it just does. But the problem, though, is, well, not really the problem, but because if they followed the way the folktale is, like what Tristan had read us, where it just randomly catches on fire from all the, even though everything is frozen. I guess that's just going to be one great big mystery ever that maybe we can't
And then
solve.
also in the story, it says the entire crew was dead without any signs of foul play. So there was like no like struggle whatsoever. They were just dead. Like there was no like gunshots through them, no strangulation, nothing.
Huh.
Yeah,
Well,
that's one thing that caught my attention.
well, like I said, it sounds like this is the type of folklore where it's just never going to be solved. It's going to be left unsolved.
It's just never gonna make sense. People are just, it's just gonna have holes that can't be filled in and unanswered questions and everything else.
Definitely. Now, like you already said it, Paul, like this would be a great story to put in a movie.
I do agree.
So since we just got done talking about a ghost ship or some type of ship, how about this? Within the Japanese mythology, we have, God damn it, Namzu, or some shit like that. Anyway, what this Namzu is a giant catfish who pretty much lays within the mud underneath the island of Japan and creates earthquakes. And within this catfish too is that it is also guarded by the god Kashima, who restrained this particular catfish with just a stone. Which, that's pretty much the folklore that I have. It's just a giant catfish that is known to create earthquake underneath the island of Japan.
That's kind of interesting because actually catfish can actually get really freaking huge.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's kind of interesting that catfish is considered to be the source of earthquakes in Japan. I could see how that's possible with, like you guys were mentioning, it can get huge. I wonder what.
Well, there's a lot of monster stories like coming from China and Japan that like certain like creatures in like the real like world, like birds or like anything like that, they actually mean something to them. Like if you see this creature, oh, that's a bad omen. That's not a bad omen. You know what I mean?
Now, another thing that I find interesting is that the world record catfish weighed 58 pounds. And this was from South Carolina from July 7th of 1964. And it's very interesting that it weighed about realistically, a channel catfish is over 20 pounds, and this one was 58 pounds. Another interesting thing is that there was also another one that supposedly set a world record, which was 121.5 pounds that was caught in Texas.
Holy shit.
And then the last one that I can find is a catfish that was about 9 feet long, which is pretty much as big as a goddamn grizzly bear. And this thing weighed 46 pounds.
Holy hell.
Fish.
I have no idea where it came from, though. It does not say where this was, where it came from, unfortunately. However, though, when it comes to this catfish, though, this folklore tale about making earthquake, I don't know if we could ever see this may be made as a horror film or any type of film, really, but maybe it could. Maybe the catfish made a earthquake so bad that it flooded the island, maybe. I mean, that's as far as I can really think of if it came down to movie-wise. And maybe that would be a cool idea, but I don't know. Either way, it's something we still haven't really seen.
No, I don't even see how they can even use that in a film, be honest. Like maybe like kind of like Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief kind of way. I don't know.
I think it's one of those monsters that's best left to folklore, unless somehow the Japanese could find some way to do it in in the film industry of theirs, maybe.
That's what they should do. Godzilla versus that thing. There we go.
Godzilla versus the catfish.
Or maybe some other kind of like sea monster versus the giant ass catfish that creates earthquakes. Do a sea battle.
Do another Japanese folklore, yeah. And the catfish, yeah, that should work. I mean, Japanese has a lot of mythology shit.
So that's probably the only way I could really see it working.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because Japanese are really fucking awesome at shit like that, and they could pull something like that off. I could see it.
Yeah. Well, anything Japanese does is way 10 times better than what we'll ever see around here.
Yeah, especially their horror. Their horrors.
Their horror's phenomenal. More creepier than the U.S. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely makes my skin crawl in a good way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, their movie, their take on Grudge was amazing.
Juhon?
Yeah.
The original.
Yes.
Let's not forget that. Japan did it first.
Yeah, and they even did a better version of a movie called Shudder.
Yes, they did.
They did it so much better than the Americanized version, because I've seen both.
And we have them, too.
Yes. So Japanese horror is definitely, like, top-notch.
Oh, yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's talk about Dagon.
Ooh, what's this Dagon?
Dagon is considered to be an ancient Mesopotamian deity that appears to have been worshipped as a fertility god. He's also been mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as a national god of the Philistines and has a temple in Ashdod, somewhere in Gaza or something like that. He's known for his race called the Mermen, and there is actually a cult that is that worships him. H.P. Lovecraft has also mentioned him in his works and has a book that he's done on him, actually, called the Vagrant, which was a written in July 1917, and there is a November 1919 edition of it that's published. And so Dagon is pretty interesting from what I have read. And there's actually a film called Dagon that is like a fantasy mystery, which I've seen, and Dagon has actually appeared in multiple films. There's been mentioning of Dagon even in Reanimator and Beyond the Reanimator, and the last Lovecraft Relic of Cthulhu, the Dunwich Horror, the Call of Cthulhu, and many others. So, Dagon was an ancient Northwest Semitic god worshipped by early Amorites and by people of Abila, and is also considered to be a major god, perhaps chief god of biblical Philistines. Mythological sources, Dagon, as far as consistent, the prevailing view today is that Dagon was a fertility deity related to grain and agriculture, and sacrifices were made so that people would have, like, flourishing crops. Most regard him as a merman figure or a fish deity of the sea. And there is actually, in a biblical story of Samson, there is a temple of Dagon. Dagon has become a popular figure in recent literature, movies, and fantasy role-playing games. The god Dagon first appears in an archaeological records from back to like 2500 BCE in Mari documents, and he bore such titles as the Lord of Gods, or the Lord God of Gods, Lord of Land, or... So what do you guys think of Dagon? I mean, a figure that is kind of also considered to be fictional and also mentioned alongside with Cthulhu even.
Well, I saw the movie by H.P. Lovecraft, Dagon, and I absolutely love that one. My brother, he graduated from high school for literature, and he absolutely loves H.P. Lovecraft. And me and him sat down and we watched this movie. At first, I'm like, here comes another B-rated movie. But it was actually really good. And they made Dagon look absolutely terrifying in the movie. And pretty much the movie, I don't know if you found anything on the movie, Tessa. Have you?
Yeah, there's actually a movie called Dagon.
Yeah, and that's the movie I'm talking about. And pretty much what happens is group of friends, they crash on an island, a band, like houses everywhere, they're all run down. The people that live there, they're kind of shuttered in. They don't really talk much to these people. And then they figure out that they worship him, and they kind of sacrifice people to Dagon so they could like get fish for food and stuff like that. So it was Dagon is a very interesting choice. I really like that choice.
Well, thank you. I thought it was pretty interesting as well. I mean, I did think about talking about Cthulhu, but Cthulhu is very popular. Like, Cthulhu is everywhere.
Well, yeah, one of the known, popular stories of H.P. Lovecraft. So it's always going to be everywhere, no matter what.
And you even played a game with Cthulhu in it.
Called Cthulhu.
Yep.
Which I still want to buy that game.
That's actually very good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. For my thoughts on this, I haven't really seen the movies, but from what I'm hearing, this almost sounds like it's more of a. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Like Tessa, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but you and I watched The Ritual, and as Tristan was talking about with sacrificing humans and whatever to be able to
have crops.
and stuff. And it seems to be the same exact thing with the forest monster that we saw in the ritual.
Yeah, and the only difference is that this monster's of the sea.
Exactly. And then the one that we saw is of land. So
yes,
that's the only thing I see. So it's very interesting choice as well, I would have to say. So, interesting. So we got like a land and we got a water creature, sort of like this. Either way, I wouldn't want to mess with it.
Yeah, I definitely would want to make sure that Dagon is appeased if you want your crops to grow.
Actually, I have heard of the name. I just don't freaking remember where I heard it.
Probably in H.P. Lovecraft, because H.P. Lovecraft talks about him.
Besides H.P. Lovecraft, it was somewhere else. It was even talking about even a small little puddle or lake or something could carry this creature. And if it was mad at you, it would drag you into the water. So I really don't remember where the hell I heard of this. But I think it was something to do with Indians. Does it mention anything about Indians at all?
Not that I can see yet, but here's something. In fiction and contemporary culture, Dagon has also been used as a figure in fictional Cthulhu mythos, one of the hidden powers known as the Great Old Ones. Dagon seems to have inspired H.P. Lovecraft in creating his short story Dagon, which is first published in 1919. A reference to Dagon appears again in Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth in 1936, one of Lovecraft's best-known stories. Fred Chappell wrote a novel called Dagon, which attempted to tell the Cthulhu mythos story in a psychological, realistic Southern Gothic novel. The novel was awarded the Best Foreign Nobel Prize for French Academy in 1972. The Dagon movie that Tristan and I are speaking of is from 2002, and it's based on Lovecraft's short story. In the movie Conan the Destroyer, Dagon or Dagoth is the dream god that comes to life when a jewel-encrusted horn is placed on his forehead in his statue. There's also in Mahao Sentai Majaranger, Dagon is the name of the creature from the Black Lagoon, base leader in Interficia Pantheon gods. Wise Hades god Dagon. His Power Rangers Mystic Force counterpart in Sulpin and Ten Terrors. Dagon has also become a popular figure in role-playing game genre, in Dungeons and Dragons even. Dagon is the name of the shared by both the Demon Prince of the Abyss and the Outcast Devil, and has been cited in the White Wolf RPG game. Demon, the Fallen Dagon, is depicted as an earthbound obsessed with transforming all of humanity into soulless, mindless clockwork beings. In popular Elder Scrolls RPG series, a Daedric prince named Mehrunes Dagon. In the game Lost Magic, the Dagon is greater form of the Hydra, a Nautilus-like monster, but only a fire type. So that's been sightings of where Dagon has been shown in a fictional and contemporary sense. So Dagon has been everywhere, legitly.
Yeah, Dagon's a very, like you said, Tessa, it's one of those, like, deities, like, up there with Cthulhu. So it's very popular.
Yeah, it's very popular.
Yeah, I'm just looking up the Native American thing that I'm trying to fucking think of.
Is it maybe in the fish ritual?
No, I have it. I'm just wondering if this is... Yeah, this is it. It's not the Dagon, it's a dragon. It's like a 7-headed fucking dragon thing that I'm thinking of.
Oh.
Yeah. But still, it's like an underwater thing where, like, it's kind of like act like the Dagon. Like, if you displease it, it drags you into the fucking water to drown. It's crazy.
Apparently, there is still considered to be rituals, Dagon worship rituals of today. People still worship Dagon as a Mesopotamian god. They still worship him. So there are people that still conduct rituals and things of that nature in Dagon's name.
Now, before we end this, so, like, my final thoughts about the whole sea creature legends, all of it, it's kind of petrifying to me. Like, the only thing I could think of was I might be swimming and something might be under me that could drag me to the bottom of wherever I'm swimming. And it's like, I am never going into a lake again. That's how scared I am. So, but that's what people want. I mean, that would make a great film as well. You know, like, if we see a lot more sea creatures and everything, then werewolves, vampires, creatures in the woods, ghosts, just give us something different that will make us hate the sea. And I think that's my final thought.
My final thought of this whole entire thing is, I think every one of these type of creatures that we've talked about or read the folklore tale of are creepy in its own way, possibly. Maybe except for the catfish one, because we're still trying to figure out how that would become creepy. But either way, it's a very interesting tale. But I just think, as for the Dagon, well, there is movies on it. Maybe it's time to start looking at other creatures that need to have their light shined, and how we could maybe look at a story to bring it to life. Because, you know, what else is really out there that we do not know?
My final thoughts for this episode are, it's pretty interesting how all of these monsters have been spoken of throughout history, and there's a lot more out there than what we can see, and I'm sure that there's far scarier things out there that we don't even know about, scarier creatures, and we have no idea that they exist. Like Tristan said, you could be swimming in a lake and you would never know. One could even be swimming underneath you and you wouldn't know. And it's pretty interesting how some of these sea monsters or sea creatures are still worshipped as gods even. So, that's my final thoughts.
Like I said, my name is Tristan Knopp from Everything Horror.
And I'm Paul Dolsky.
And I'm Tessa Baker.
And like we always say from the Everything Horror community, stay scary.